Hey everyone, I'm Brad from Calgary.
This is Sean from Cambridge, Ontario.
I'm Terry from Cornwall, Ontario.
Hey, this is Larry from Pitt Meadows, British Columbia, and you're listening to the Towing Life Podcast.
Welcome to the Towing Life Podcast, where the ditches are deep, the trucks are loaded, but the drivers are not. I am your host, Towman G, and as usual, I'm joined by my co-host, friend, and former co-worker, the man with very strong opinions, Mr. Plain Guy.
What is going on, G? What is going on?
Oh, in the land of milk and honey, except for milk, it's bad internet, and honey, it's not feeling well.
It's a beautiful long May weekend as we sit down and record episode 138. So you cannot complain about the weather that we've had, and it does suck that you're feeling bad. We're in June, July weather up here. It is absolutely unreal. As you said, welcome to another episode of the Towing Life Podcast. We have some good stuff on tap. A little bit of follow up from last week, a little bit of new stuff for this week. We have it all. That being said, your questions, comments, concerns, everything that you have for the show is always appreciated. So where can you find us? You can reach out. You can head over to our website at www.towinglife.ca. You can visit us on Facebook at the Towing Life Podcast, or you can email us directly at thetowinglife@gmail.com. If you're watching over on YouTube, do not forget, you can comment right down below, hit that thumbs up, everything else while you are down there. If you are listening over on Spotify or any of the audio apps, there is a text us option that sends us an email directly with any comments or questions you have. I don't think we can reply to it, but if you have an idea for the show, it's that easy. You've already got it open. You're listening. Pull over into a safe spot. If you're driving, click the tab, send us over a message, and we will do our best to get to any questions that you may have on the show. I did all that while uploading the slide for the show that I forgot to do.
I was wondering why my internet really went to shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. You haven't moved for a solid 20 seconds on my screen.
I realized as I got into that intro, I'm like, I didn't upload the slides that we wanted to talk about today. So I've got the script so memorized that I'm able to do it while working in the background. It's it only took 138
speaking about
episodes.
The comments and questions. Speaking of the comments and questions from last week, we did get quite a few comments on YouTube from the last week's
did we?
video.
I never looked at them.
We had one from Joe saying, "Good show, guys." Joe. Yeah. He also says, "I just had a meeting with my area rep for the US 3-letter roadside and their supervisor. Told him it's real interesting how we as drivers are told what to do and how to do our job by someone who has never driven or even does the job for a period of time to understand it. They were telling us on how to greet members and explain to them everything that we're doing while loading the vehicles so that we can have good reviews. So I mentioned everything that we do is all about reviews and it's not for their safety. After a long silence by them and a bullshit answer, that's pretty much what it is. So in a way, it's like the government telling us what to do because they have no idea how to do our job or what it requires. Just think the higher ups as the government." And to be frank, most big 3-letter roadsides are corporations and they have a lot of bureaucracy and they run a lot like governments do. And yeah, it's all about our 3-letter roadside, cover ass always. That's all they got to do. And they just want what's best for their stockholders, and that's to get the bottom line up, make the company look
but that's it. That's where you can't compare them to government, because the government is working with publicly funded money. So at the end of the day, they're not overly concerned. There's very little accountability lately, especially for you know what I mean, what the bottom line is with the government, where there is a lot more when it comes to these 3-letter roadsides and these corporations. So I get the comparison you're trying to make, but there's obviously big leading factors between the two decision making. I'm reading actually the comments, and I do like Plain Guy really missed the boat on Tasia. Sounds a lot like regurgitated Doug and Joey rhetoric. Sorry you feel that way. Anyone that knows me knows that I respect those individuals on what they have done for the industry. However, I have my fair share of difference of opinions that has been, not publicly talked about on the show, but definitely throughout my career I've not shied away from. So if you feel that way, again, I'm not influenced by anything that they say or do, but maybe there is some, that's why I say there might be some there might be some truth to what they're saying. They're professionals in the industry that have been around for a long time, right? Obviously, they know what they're doing. One much more than the other. I would like to make that abundantly clear. I won't say which is which, but I think they know, and I think you will know as well. One is successfully grown a massive towing company. The other is kind of just a place setter, in my opinion. It's true. And you know what? I wasn't going to get into this, but let's get into this.
Okay.
It was ironic, the timing, because I don't think we talked about that part on the show. So we talked last week about Ontario's call to action. And I know there's probably some Ontario companies that are their ears are going up with this kind of stuff. And, they're listening to specific episodes because we cover things directly involving them.
Mm-hmm.
There was a letter sent out. Sorry, it wasn't a letter. It was a news article. I'm going to try and pull it up here now. It was a news article that was put together in Trucker News, I want to say, in regards to this day of action. Now, I hated it. I absolutely hated this article. The government, the insurance companies, and everyone have given us a runaround in the towing industry because we have failed to stay united, at least on a certain amount of our points on what we're trying to accomplish with the towing industry, right? We have 3 different towing associations that are talking to the government. We have the ORG, the Ontario Recovery Group. We have the PTAO, the Professional Towers Association of Ontario, and the NAAPTD. I don't know what it stands for. It's still an association, whether we acknowledge that it's it's still an association. It's a stakeholder in the industry. Yep. So the PTAO unofficially, I don't really want to even say them. Towers within the PTAO are the ones that called for this day of action. I'm not saying the PTO was behind it. I don't believe they support it. I don't think they publicly come out and said they support it. But clearly, by the message sent here, the ORG is in disagreement, which is fine. You can disagree with another towing association's direction. An article put out in trucknews.com. Our members will not be participating in this job action. Many of them will likely be ready to assist the police in any matters deemed necessary. I have serious doubts that 50 tow companies will be participating in this job action, said Nelson, which is Doug Nelson, the executive director of the ORG, in an email to trucknews.com. When you do the numbers, even as CTV News has provided, it comes out to less than 4.5% and not likely to be a problem. Joey Gagne, president of Abrams Towing, agrees it'll be a non-event. He noted there are 1,260 towing companies in Ontario. While many of them who work in remote areas have a legitimate gripe, he admits none of the GTHA authorized towing companies are expected to participate. So that is the tow zone pilot companies in Toronto. He adds, we, the Ontario Recovery Group, continue to have a robust dialogue with the government to find solutions to these challenges and expect some progress in the near future. Here's my problem with this. The government's already got you by the balls, towing industry, because you can't get your shit together. And I mean that respectfully. I mean, you guys cannot all get on the same page, let alone in the same goddamn book. When one association, whether you agree with the day of action, you can disagree with the day of action. I did not participate in the weekend of action. I have no problem. I'm not shying away from that. I did agree with certain points that they had, but I would not publicly come out and show that divide in the towing industry to only further empower the government and insurance companies. If you don't agree with the day of action, understandable. We will not be participating in this weekend of action, or day of action, whatever they want to call it. However, we understand that there is issues within the towing industry and government that need to be resolved, and we look forward to working on that solution together. That is all you have to say. You do not have to say it'll be a non-event. You do not have to say, that you have serious doubts that this many companies will do it. All you are showing is the misorganization and the division that still exists within the towing industry. Put your egos aside, right? This is the them versus us We have a different view. They have a different view. Egos are very high on this one. And it's causing the government not to take us seriously. Let's be honest. So, it's been an interesting time in Ontario. We know that. So, I won't call out your name just because it looks like it might be a towing company. But your comment over on YouTube that sounds a lot like regurgitated rhetoric. Like I said, I can assure you there is no love lost between those individuals. I respect what they've done for the industry for many, many years. But our views align very differently whenever it comes to the current tides within the towing industry. So that being said, Mr. Towman G once again has reconnected after losing internet service. Welcome back, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Hi. The webpage hasn't even loaded yet.
Okay.
I'm unable to load the layouts of our StreamYards.
That's fine. You just need to sit there. You're up. You're looking pretty, and you're participating. That's all that matters.
Yep.
You get a trophy.
Yep. Perfect. It is 2024, and I expect a participation trophy. However, I did miss pretty much most of everything that you talked about, but I can reiterate that that's the biggest issue in our industry is not being able to come together as a
Yeah.
collective whole. And we've talked about this previously on the show, is if you go into like Facebook groups for police officers or firefighters, you don't see each other bashing each other the same as you do in the towing industry. We are very cutthroat to each other. And when the public looks in at this or articles get written, they're like, the towing industry just looks to be in shambles because they're going after each other when we should all be fighting for the collective growth and goal of the industry in whatever manner that is. Regardless if, like you were saying, if you don't see eye to eye with one person's push to better the industry, respect their effort to at least try to do something to better the industry, whether you support it or not. And just sit at the sidelines. If it fails, it fails. But at least if it succeeds, and you didn't bash it, well, then it's still a success for you, and you're not spiteful because you're like, I didn't agree with that, but it worked. Now I feel stupid, or I can't align myself with them again because instead of staying on the straight and narrow together, you've divided even more in a why. And I feel that's when a lot of resentment can show up.
And a lot of this, like, it's one thing to go on a level and people might want to call me a hypocrite for it and knock yourself out, where, oh, well, you guys are showing the divide by talking about it on the show. Fair enough. Right.
Yep.
Like, and even last week when we talked about the post put out on Facebook about this whole action that was being taken, and I didn't agree with many parts of it, and that's fine. I didn't bash it. The points are valid. I didn't think it would be effective. The difference is I'm not the head of the associations that is going out to the media, that is going out to the government and having these conversations. They are ultimately the ones that are going to make the decision. And when egos get involved, and I believe a lot of it is about egos. You have one ego over here saying, this is what we need to do. You have another one over here saying, no, this is what we have to do. Both of these men are well represented and well established in the towing industry, and what they, their opinions carry a lot of weight, right? And you need to be able to put that aside, and I feel like it's a race to say, well, I want to be the guy that says that I fix the industry. Well, guess what? The right leg can't do anything without the left leg, right? And I don't think the option is amputation. The option is to start working together to figure out how we're going to better the industry through, you don't have to agree with everything, right? It's been a pain in the ass. And as much as I respect individuals on both sides of the argument, they have both come out with very, very stupid ideas, in my opinion. I'm not going to give them out loud because one has already threatened my job years ago, or at least tried to. So, it is what it is. I really hope the association in Ontario can turn it around, but I have my fears, and I don't have the faith in the leadership that we have. I don't have faith in, I shouldn't say the leadership, but the direction we have with the government right now. I'm really worried about what the future holds for the towing industry. So
Mhm.
enough government talk for all you Americans, the goddamn Canadians, and they're what do they have to complain about? They got year-long maple syrup and free healthcare, and all these guys can do is bitch about how their towing industry is so goddamn broken.
Yep. Yep. We also had a comment, I think, from Chris. I lost it being pulled up, saying that they have a F-250 with one of the
With a
ramps.
motorcycle lift. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Um,
something like that I can get behind 100%. A pickup truck. Yeah.
I don't know where the comment said came from Ace Diamond. Hey laser lips. So I know that
Yeah.
line. Hey laser lips. Your mama was a snowblower. Did that come up in last week's show that I don't remember? Or
I don't know.
did we talk
I
about
saw
number
that and I was
5?
like, I don't know.
Do you know that line? Do you know that
No.
movie?
No, I don't.
Oh my god. Short Circuit. It's an old school movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's fairly old now. And it's about a robot that comes alive. I mean, it's like it is not like AI shit alive. It is like a box of magnets and bolts that got put together somehow comes alive. And it's like a military robot, old school, very old school.
Mm.
And he has a line where he gets a conscience and he's fighting the other robots, and it's comedy.
Mm.
He goes, "Hey, laser lips, your mama was a snow blower." And I always like that line. So I'm
Yeah.
not sure why the comment popped up, but I definitely get the reference. So
You know something that's sad, and this
what's
was
that?
brought to my attention. We are closer to 2050 than we are 1990. And you saying that the movie is old just
Yeah.
reminded me of that.
Okay. So
Like,
Short Circuit, and I'm terrible for remembering. I know the actor in it. Short Circuit, the original was 1986.
wow.
Yeah, it is not a. That's why I say it's an older movie. It's starring. I don't know any of these people. Who's the main guy? I don't even recognize him.
I
Anyways,
think just getting older, like I'm not that old by any means. I'm approaching my 30s, and that's kind of shitty to say. Um, but time just keeps marching on and it doesn't slow down for nothing. And it's just, I don't know.
nope.
All my friends now are now having kids and stuff and are married or getting
And
married. And it's like, and I'm sitting here doing a stupid little internet show with this asshole over here.
oh, you just call our show a stupid little internet show? That's
Yeah.
aggressive.
It's a stupid little internet show that's kind of comedic and
It
sometimes informative.
don't take your self-loathing out on the show, okay? Don't take your depressive state that you're in out on our wonderful podcast. That is just mean. So, anyways, let's talk about mean. Let's talk about something that's very controversial. And no, it's not Ontario towing laws or the people behind them. We recently have started a trial with a company. I can give the company a shout out. I don't care. It's a trial. I'm still on the fence about it. It's called Samsara. Samsara offers fleet tracking services as well as dash cams. Right, dash cams for tow trucks. And it's all integrated. It's a fairly nice system of what I've seen on the play on the trial so far. Very expensive system, comes with a cost, right? Like everything in the world, it comes with a cost. The argument becomes with dash cams in the towing industry. We are currently trialing out 2 dual facing dash cams. What I mean by dual facing is obviously one faces outwards and one faces inwards towards our drivers and their passengers. Now, I'm sure this has been something that has been debated for a long time, but dual facing versus front facing cameras, pros, cons, concerns of drivers. I want you to try and, I know G with his cult mentality probably has so many privacy concerns about this that he is going to voice to me. And I will try and answer the best that I can on reasonings why, or justifying reasonings why, or with my experience through this company already, if there is things that put your mind at ease.
So it's funny that you bring this up. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but a little while ago, there is a semi truck that drove off a bridge.
Yes.
The dash cam video was released, and the
Yes.
lady driving, when that truck came out and she hit it, she turned the wheel to the left and proceeded to steer the truck off the bridge.
I didn't notice that part.
Yeah, so the truck hit and she's like, whoa, all over the place, and then proceeds to keep turning the wheel left because I guess a semi oncoming that's like 300 meters away, she was worried about hitting that and would rather go off the bridge instead of turning right and trying to control the truck and stay on the bridge. And that's, if you don't know, why trucks don't have airbags, because if you get into an accident, you're supposed to be able to hopefully maintain sight lines and hopefully steer to avoid secondary collisions.
Is that really
Now,
the reason why that they don't have airbags?
correct. Yeah, because if you think about it, if you're in an 80,000-pound rig going down a hill and a smart car that pulls out in front of you, yeah, you're killing the person in the smart car. As bad as that is, you are. But if you lose control of the rig, that's 80,000 pounds, it's not stopping. And now you can't see what's going on in front of you. You don't know if you're going to drive into another minivan full of kids or into a brick wall or into a ditch and safely crash a truck into the tree, and hopefully you make it out alive. Like,
Okay,
it's,
I'm not calling you a liar, but I just re-looked at this footage and
yeah.
you are incorrect. What happened is you got to look at where in relation to the cab she's steering. She's steering towards the passenger seat. But
Maybe.
the overlay of the cameras, I think it got you confused. It looks like she's steering into it whenever you overlay the cameras that way, but no,
Yeah.
she is actually steering towards the passenger seat. She's trying cranking, and there was obviously some damage to that wheel that
Okay.
probably. So there goes your argument. Now,
Okay.
front-facing dash cams, I believe, are a bare minimum within the towing industry nowadays.
Yeah.
Right, on most vehicles are starting, like, dash cams are becoming ever more popular.
Dual
facing got some backlash, right?
Yep.
Now, I made a joke. Some people took it well, some people didn't. I said, it's no problem. If you don't want a dual facing dash cam in your truck, I understand. So here's the steps that you can take. You can go to the bank and you can take a loan and you can buy your own goddamn tow truck. And then you can decide what kind of cameras you want to have in your truck. Until then, when you were driving somebody else's piece of equipment, you know what I mean? There is lines to draw. Now, again, it isn't about a trust thing. I can tell you, this app that I have, I get incidents, and I'm still figuring out how to set the parameters to what I want, right? One of the big ones, cell phones. It is AI. It does have AI technology, which means that it will recognize a cell phone in your hand. And it'll warn the driver first. Put down the phone. If the driver does not put down the phone, then it sends off a video. Okay. So there's a nudge that the driver receives first, because I'm hoping that is something that self-corrects itself. Yeah. Okay. That being said, I'm playing now with the speed threshold on it, because, I got a violation that pops up and it's a guy going through our yard, moving, just doing 10 kilometers an hour, crawling through our yard, and he's, checking the call that he just got. Okay. That's fair. You can dismiss these, these incidents. Right. Now, again, it's where you play with the speed threshold and you get everything going else, right? Harsh braking incidents, all that is on it. You know what I mean? The biggest for me is the cell phones and the distracted driving in today's day and age. Because, I mean, those tickets are no joke. Like, in Ontario, if you get convicted of a distracted driving, like of a cell phone ticket or a handheld device ticket, there is, I believe, a 1 or a 2-day suspension of your license upon conviction that happens.
Yeah.
Like, it is not just pay a ticket and move on with it. Like, there is a suspension involved with it. It's short, but it's still involved. And the insurance costs and the increase and everything with that. And then not to mention if that cell phone caused, right? Like, when that dash cam footage, that outward dash cam footage, at least, and even inward, would protect that driver in that instance. Here's the vehicle that popped out in front of you. Here is the fact that you were not on a phone. You were not, I mean, she looked like she was falling asleep at first. Like, she was quite relaxed. But you know what I mean? It can go two ways. It can either validate the driver or it can help convict them. I'm a big believer that the people that do not want inward facing dash cams is because they don't do things that they should be doing, or they do things that they should not be doing. Because it's not a spy tool. And now, I'm not saying that there isn't companies that would use it as a spy tool. Right? But most managers and owners, depending on where you're at, don't have the time of day to just randomly, like, I still haven't figured out. I think it's an extra feature that I haven't unlocked that you would have to pay for extra that I have no interest in is a live view.
Mm.
I don't need a live view.
No.
I don't need to go see what it is you're doing at that time. My
Yeah.
concern is for coaching whenever there's an incident that comes up, because hey, you can put all the policies you want out. You can put a policy of no cell phones, right? No distracted driving policy. How are you enforcing
Mm.
that unless a customer's calling in because they spotted it, they got a ticket, or you witnessed it yourself? You cannot.
Yep.
So the policy is bullshit, and it's just a piece of paper that gives you a right if you do catch them to take action.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of that, how about actually being able to, monitor it and regulate it, right?
So I think, and this is going out on a limb here, and just from what my personal experience is, a lot of people that are against the inward facing dash cams are smokers that are smoking in a company vehicle that is illegal, right? And I've had the conversation with managers before where they say, I don't care as long as you don't get caught and I don't see it.
Yep,
And
100%.
as long as the truck doesn't smell and no customer complaints, if a customer complains, then there's going to be hell to pay. And I understand that and I respect that. And I know it's illegal. And I have taken the onus because that ticket is a driver ticket, not a company ticket. And I
100%.
understand that. It's a workplace. So you can't smoke in the workplace. You can't vape in a workplace, yada, yada, yada. I understand that. The cell phone things, unfortunately, with our job, a lot of drivers aren't set up in a way, or they weren't provided, or they didn't go out on their own accord and get a proper mount to mount a cell phone, or whatever the excuse is. A lot of times we have to take calls while we're driving. A lot of times dispatch might send a text with information that you might need. Sometimes the tow destination might get changed, and the excuse is that I've made, and I'm sure a lot of other drivers have made, is, well, if I have to pull over to answer this phone or to send a text message every time I need to, I will get 20% of work less done if I got to do that. Okay,
Now,
right?
okay.
Like if
Yep.
that is the threshold, if you are going to lose 20% of your productivity to be legal, right? That's the law is you can't operate your devices while driving. If that is what the law says, then in theory, the inward facing dash cam is holding you accountable, holding the company accountable, and it gives the ability to do that. It's just like the smoking thing. If you get caught, that's on you. Okay, well, if you got your cell phone in your hand and you get caught, well, there's proof of that, right? We can
No, that's
either
not just on you though.
confirm
That's
it.
on the company.
I know we can confirm it or we can deny it if something bad happens because we have that camera now. I worked
But
for a company previous that had inward facing dash cams, and a lot of people covered them up. The owner got upset when the inward facing dash cams were covered up, and rightfully so. But it wasn't a hill that he died on, right? It wasn't a big thing. Obviously, if something happened and they're covered up, he was pissed. But they also reinsured us multiple times that the only way they could get a live feed into the cabin of the vehicle that we're driving is if they're sitting at home on their computer bored and had nothing better to do. It's not something they could pull up on their cell phone nice and easy while they're themselves are going down the road or just being nosy, right? And
yeah, no, I can't. Yep.
at the end of the day, it is their equipment, it is their investment. You are their employee. I don't think there's any sense of privacy in the workplace per se that you are entitled to. I'm not 100% sure on the legality of that, but I highly doubt that there's anything illegal about inward facing dash cams. You might have to sign off on something, maybe, for the company to cover their ass. I think companies could do something like that just to avoid pointless litigation down the road in case someone is real
Yeah,
butthurt. But
agreed.
personally, do I like it on an individual level? No. Do I understand why the company does it and why they're protecting their asset? Yes. Would I probably put an inward facing dash cam in my own tow truck if I had one? Especially letting someone else drive it? 100%. Just because cover your ass always.
So I want to touch on a couple points you said there. So yes, there is
Yep.
the productivity argument that can be made. Now,
Mhm.
um, it depends on the company as well. I can assure you, like the way our trucks are currently set up, I have
Mhm.
a tablet mounted in the trucks
Yep.
on every truck. Every tow truck has a tablet mounted with all of the apps that the driver needs. Google Maps,
Mhm.
we're a big fan of TowSoft.
Mm.
All that stuff. It's all
Yep.
mounted on a tablet. They can remove the tablet when need be to do calls and pictures, whatever. It's mounted
Mhm.
right up in a good spot. So
Yep.
as for the texting issue, dispatch calling, whatever. First of all, calling, there's no reason in 2024 that you don't have a wireless headset, a
Or
Bluetooth headset.
Bluetooth in the truck. Yep.
Or Bluetooth in the truck. There's zero excuses that can be made for that. You can
Mhm.
get them for $20, $30, $40. Like there, as a driver, that one would be one if they went, well, I don't have a way to, then go buy one. Like that, come on. But a
Amazon it.
big
It'll be
solution,
here tomorrow.
yeah. But a big solution to that is even we have added in all of our trucks radios, a full
Mm.
radio system, because although you cannot operate a handheld device, you can
Mhm.
use a radio.
A push to talk two-way radio. Yep.
Yes, a push to talk, not necessarily a two-way radio, but yes, a push to
Yep.
talk open air radio, whatever you want.
Yep.
So again, we're a little privileged in that sense. It was an
Mhm.
investment, obviously, we made for the company. It's great when trucks can communicate together and dispatch can communicate with them. Do they use it as effectively as I would want them to? God, no.
Hmm.
Still constantly calling each other on cell phones, dispatch calling the driver. Like there's still flaws in
Yep.
the system that we need to work out. But so to say that you
Mhm.
would lose efficiency, not really. Other than having to re-punch in an address. And God, Google Maps is voice activated, for Christ's sakes.
Mm.
Like there
Yeah.
is a mic button that you can say an address. Now concessions might play into that and rural
Yep.
areas, right? It's a lot easier to say this. Hey, plane guy, you live in a small town. A lot of those town roads are picked up. It's very easy, to adjust things on the fly.
Mhm.
But if not, I mean, pull over for 5 seconds, punch in the new address and go. I don't think you're
I
gonna lose
think I'm in
20%
a boat.
efficiency.
I think I'm in a boat with a lot of
You're in a
people
boat,
is
all right.
I I embrace the technology to a certain extent. I very rarely use voice activated stuff on my cell phone just because I don't like it, right? And
Why you worried about the
that's
government stealing your voice? Hate to break it to you. You have a weekly podcast where they can get everything they
I
need and more.
I'm well aware. I'm well aware AI could be able to steal my voice and call my mother and say I'm in jail and need bail. That's a real thing that's happening. Anyways, but I'm a firm believer in the technology that we have, but I also don't like implementing all these things in my life because I'm at that point now where I'm getting stuck in my ways of what I grew up with and I don't like change. And I
You
think a
how
lot
old
of
are you?
people in the industry don't like the change. And that's where we're seeing these issues of, well, I've never had an inward facing dash camera before. I've never talked to my phone before to change the address on Google. And I understand that as well, but times are changing and they could be changing for the better or the worse, depending on the path everything takes. But you see that a lot. Everyone wants to go paperless, and we can talk about that more later. And it's just a lot of things are changing, and if you embrace it and what avenue you are embracing. And I think that's where the hiccup lies for a lot of people.
Well, and it's funny that is a problem in the towing industry, and the reason that I say that is because the towing industry is constantly pushing new innovations, whether it
Hmm.
be with equipment, whether it be with recovery techniques, whether it be with all that stuff. The towing industry is evolving
Hmm.
constantly, like exponentially since its inception.
Hmm.
And so it's funny that, we talk about being stuck in the old ways when,
Hmm.
how much everything is changing as a whole in the towing industry, regulation, everything else. So yes, it is something I want to talk about. Like we have almost gone completely paperless.
Yep.
We are so close to it. I
Hmm.
recently, I'm testing out with my drivers right now an app that we created for commission entries.
Hmm.
Right, that was one of the few paper things that the driver still had in his truck, where he had a piece of paper and he'd write down his calls like a run sheet.
Hmm.
And I've now found a way to make a very smooth, web like app based setup.
Hmm.
We're in the process. I got a couple drivers trying it out this weekend to see how it goes.
Hmm.
Um, That is the problem. As you start to go paperless and as things start to evolve, like the dash cameras, like you know what? Ironically, the dash camera, the one guy that I don't get cell phone violations from is my oldest guy in the fleet.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, they, you know what I mean? They weren't born to texting and driving. They weren't, you know what I mean? Like it was, if you had something, you
Mm-hmm.
called somebody and he's got,
Yep.
you know, he has a headset, whatever. Like it's actually the newer generation that's giving me more of the problems with the new technology.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, yeah, some of the older generation towers coming in and you try and onboard them with an application like TowSoft, which TowSoft is so user friendly from
Mm-hmm.
a driver's portal. It has its glitches, like everything. It has glitches sometimes where a page doesn't load, a vehicle won't allow you to impound it, whatever. Like minor,
Yep.
minor glitches. And this is coming from a guy who does a ton of volume on TowSoft.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there is the odd thing. It's gonna happen. But that being said, like TowSoft is so user friendly, and man, the guy who's not getting caught on his cell phone is also the guy that has I mean, I hope you can see it on the YouTube side, because on my side it looks like a blurry mess you have going on there.
Yeah.
But the guy that's not getting caught on the cell phone is also the guy having the hard time with this technology, right? It's when you come from a generation where technology, you weren't born with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It came out when you were in your later years, like you said, you getting set in your ways in your late 20s.
Yep.
Are you 30 yet?
28.
Then you are not set in your ways. Shut the hell up. Jesus Christ. I'm 35 and I'm not set. Well, I think I'm 35. I think I'm going to be 35. I don't know what I am. And I'm not even set in my ways yet.
I'm a very old man at heart,
I
though.
don't care. You get set in your ways now, and that's
When
your
we worked
problem.
at the
And
company together, the owner says, "You remind me of my grandfather when I was 20,"
yeah,
because I was an old man then.
because you're lazy and stuck in your ways when you shouldn't be, and you're not up for change.
Yeah, I don't like change. I'm just not a big change type of person, and that's okay. I feel like a lot of people are like that. I think one of the issues is the world is evolving so fast,
Hmm.
and that's why time just feels like it's just going even faster. And I think a
Yeah, I think
lot of
that's fair.
people my age are like, no, I don't, like, let's slow down in this avenue or a different avenue, because you just want some control, and the whole world just seems so out of control. You want to be able to control what you do.
Yeah, I know, but at the same time, you have to embrace innovation. The towing industry as a whole, especially if you're going to be in it, you need to embrace innovation, or you're going to fall behind, and you're going to be, unfortunately, like the company in which we work that fell behind, and then eventually the best option for them was to exit. You've got to stay on top of things. You've got to stay on top of change, whether it be in the world or whether it be in the industry. It's the only way that you're going to move forward, right? We've said that before. The towing industry is very much in a state where it's either adapt or die.
Hmm.
And so if you have this old school mentality on you, that are stuck in your ways mentality, where I've been doing this for 20 years and it's worked, well, it's that the clock is ticking,
Well, I
right? You
think
you
another
can.
thing, I think another thing is, so let's say you've been in business 30 years and everything's been all hunky dory, and
Mhm,
you've been making consistent increasing in profit just as inflation and everything goes, and you've done everything with paper bill copies, and
mhm,
everything's just been all hunky dory. And then you see all these new things like TowSoft, and I love TowSoft.
mhm,
TowSoft's a great piece of equipment. Or you see different innovations like the the inward facing dash cams, and you're like, okay, I make, let's say the company makes $50,000 worth of profit a year. That's a very low number, but anyways, you make $50,000 profit per year, and you're like, well, if I bring in TowSoft and I get these subscriptions for the dash cams, and well, those things might not necessarily increase my revenue anyway. It's just taking away from profits. And if you're a small company to begin with, you'd be like, well, it's been working fine. I don't really see any profit being added to my company. Sure, it might make a couple of jobs easier. It might save a little bit of labor here and there, but it's not making me more money like investing in a bigger and better truck. Like instead of getting a new Century or Jordan bed, I'll get a 20 TB NRC bed, and now I can frame fork things, and you can see where that is going to potentially increase your revenue in your company. where an app on your phone just might not do the same. And for a lot of these small guys, I can see where they're coming from. And I respect that of these are the numbers that I have, and that truck could drastically increase my profit where this
See,
app or different applications might not.
oh my God, that is the problem with a lot of the industry. Is that
It
you
is.
cannot look. No. Because your situation that you just gave is
Mm-hmm.
100% the thought that is going through people's minds at times.
Yep.
The problem with that is it's all wrong. You cannot look at an app like TowSoft, let's say, and say, well, it's not going to generate me any more revenue. The argument, I cannot make the argument on that one. You're right. It will not generate you any more revenue. Right. But to say that it won't affect your profit is bull. That be reason for it. It's going to make some jobs easier. No, it's going to make some jobs more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It is going to take your admin staff, whoever you have, whether it be your dispatcher, whether you have a secondary person in, the ability to track these calls, see these calls, do the billing on them, send the invoices out to clients, put the statements together, all of that stuff. It is going to do that more efficiently, which means it is going to leave that time that you can either amalgamate that position or give that position more responsibility. You start to throw that in with geo tracking on the trucks. Not only now are you going, yeah, if I put fleet tracker on my trucks, well, it's not going to make me any more money. It's not. It could, but it's going to cost you less money, meaning you have to justify these investments in that way. You cannot just go, well, I'm not going to make any more money if I put fleet tracking. No, you have to look at it. It goes, how many times do I have trucks crossing each other empty? How can I be more efficient with my dispatching? Fuel prices are going up. How can I save on my fuel? I can save my fuel by having fleet tracking, by possibly tracking idling time, by calculating, if I'm leaving extra guys on call at night and they're driving 20 minutes home every night in comparison to a guy who lives in town. There's all these things that you can evaluate through that to offset the cost of the product. But no one looks at it that way. Everyone just looks at it as, well, I'm not doing this because I'm not going to make more money with it. Well, at the end of the day, you can make more money with it. It will not come in the form of just generated revenue, but it can come in the form of profit. It can be that you are spending less in other ways because of these products, right? Okay, perfect example. Can a cell phone ticket and the increase on the driver's insurance for getting a cell phone ticket within the fleet could be thousands of dollars.
Yep.
Right? Thousands of dollars. Now, I'm not saying the dash cams can fully solve it, but when you start to retrain your drivers and give them the nudge with the thing, now I'm avoiding it. The argument would have to be, I would have to avoid getting a ticket because of this system. That system can then offset. Or if he does get the ticket and he's no longer insurable and I have to relieve that driver, I need to bring in a new driver. I need to train a new driver. That comes with a cost. Right? So can this system, right? You cannot look at it as this system will not make me money. And I'm not saying you need every system. I'm not saying you're a 2-truck operation that needs dual facing dash cams, fleet tracking, TowSoft. I'm not saying that's realistic necessarily for you, but what I'm saying is as you start to grow and 5-6 trucks would be the threshold, you need to, you know what I mean? You need to invest the money in the right ways in to get the right outcome that you want. And too many people, the industry has been so stuck in that way of the exact thing in which you mentioned. I'm not buying that because it's not going to make me more money. And that is how you don't innovate. That is how you don't grow. And that is how you just continue in the same spot there. I'm not saying you won't grow, but you're going to grow and now you're going to be at 10 trucks and, oh shit, I got to start implementing this kind of equipment, this kind of support. You know what I mean? If you can justify it at the point that you can justify it financially is the point that you should start doing it, because it'll help progress your growth and really help elevate you to the next level.
You see that in everything, like especially when I was young and just getting into vehicles, it's like, okay, I could spend my money on getting some new LED lights for my vehicle and make it look a little bit nicer. I could get a new set of mirrors and bigger tires, or I could get a new front axle, which the truck desperately needs, and get the 4-wheel drive working. But no one will see that. I know it's something I need to do, but no one will see it. I can't show off, right? And it could
There
be the
might be a
same
little
thing.
ego involved in that. Yeah,
Exactly.
I
It's like I could go out and I could spend this money that I've been saving up and get a new truck and make my fleet look good, and I can show off and beat my chest and be like, "Oh, look at me, I got big tow truck." Ha. Or I could make my existing fleet that there's nothing wrong with better on the back end and be more streamlined for all my drivers, all my office staff, myself being the owner. And yeah, it's all those things are good things and things that should really be done. But the new truck that can potentially always make you money has always been a more of a priority, I feel like, because it's something you can see. It's like tangible evidence in your hand, immediate satisfaction. I don't have to sit down and look at numbers and say, okay, well, is this more efficient? I don't have to do the book work per se that no one really enjoys. I can go out there and do those rollovers and tow 2 or 3 cars at once and do the big cool things that I could post on Facebook and beat my chest some more, right?
Mhm.
And you get
Mhm.
that with everything. Do I buy a turbo for my car, or do I fix the low compression on cylinder one? Well, if I put the turbo on, I'm going to really notice that I've got low compression on cylinder one, but I got a turbo now. So you're going to buy the turbo first and then deal with the repercussions afterwards,
No, and
right?
that's the problem, and that is the view, unfortunately, G, that you're coming from a driver, and I mean that with no disrespect, because
Yeah.
anybody in their right mind that is running a business
Mm-hmm.
does not look at it that way. And if you do run a business and you look at it that way, you won't be running a business for very long,
Mm-hmm. Well, I
right?
think
So,
some old guys are looking at it that way still, and they are running
and
businesses, and that's where they're
I'm
posed.
sure there is.
Yeah.
Egos in the industry exist, right?
Yeah.
Egos in the towing industry are definitely a thing. We've gone over it before, whether it be types of personalities and whatnot within the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Egos, you know, egos unfortunately exist in the towing industry. And until the day that we can eliminate egos in the towing industry, we may be cursed to continue on with the same pattern that we've been going through
Yeah.
year after year after year. So, that being said, it was a great talk. We will check both of our egos at the door as we gracefully bow out until next week. Don't forget, if you have any questions, comments, concerns for the show, give your opinion on the dash cams. You can visit us at towinglife.ca. You can email us at thetowinglife@gmail.com. Visit us over on Facebook at the Towing Life Podcast. Don't forget, if you're over on YouTube, comment down below. We always enjoy reading them. We'll get to them again next week. Sorry for those that thought my opinions were off. Thank you for those that thought my opinions were on. On behalf of myself and my wonderful co-host, Mr. Towman G, we thank you for joining us for another episode. Take care.
Toodles. I wonder how long this is going to take to upload.
I don't know.